Hello everyone, it's Lisa, and this week we're going to go over activities for week 9. Let me go ahead and jump in. Okay, so web design online, and let's talk about week 9. We're moving along quite well on our term project, which is creating your 5 to 10 page website. And this week we are working on our Photoshop documents on finalizing the design and getting ready to slice out the individual pieces that will eventually make our HTML pages. So over here under coursework, let's just check in and make sure there's nothing in here I need to specifically talk about. So today actually this week you're going to be submitting a Photoshop document with slices in it, as well as your sliced out images. Okay, and I've provided you with some handouts in here, and I'm producing these lectures for you now, and I'm going to produce 3 lectures for you this week. One is going over making slices and file organization. The second one will be how to make a background, because I noticed some of you are going to use backgrounds in your web designs. And then the proper way to set up a transparent PNG, because I noticed some of you are going to need transparency in some of your image graphics. So this is the first video, which we're going to talk about making slices in Photoshop. Okay. So in week 9 here, I basically have your assignment write-up, and I have some tutorials here for you to reference in Lynda if you question how to make slices. And I'm also providing you with this lecture myself. Now, there's several ways to make slices. They're all pretty much the same. I've looked at these tutorials and they're fine. I mean, you can follow them. I've also given you some handouts, which are down here, which also talks about how to make slices. And I'm going to show you another method of making slices today. For the most part, they're all the same. Whichever one you choose to use is fine. They all make slices. That's the ultimate goal here, is that you're able to make slices out of your web page. Which one of these you choose to do is up to you. Whatever's most efficient and makes you as productive as possible, that's the one I would select you or recommend you select. So the write-up is here, and then there's this important image here about each different type of format that is best used for the web: the GIF, the JPEG, and the PNG. And it gives you an explanation about when you should use each one. So I won't get into that too lengthy, because I think it's self-explanatory here. All right, so other than that, I don't have anything else in this folder to review with you. So let's jump into Photoshop then. Okay, so over here in Photoshop, I have these 2 Photoshop documents I've been working with for the last couple of weeks now. I started out with wireframes with these documents, and then we went through last week and we created mock-ups with these documents, and now I'm ready to start slicing up these documents so that I could prepare my areas of the web page for work in Dreamweaver and HTML and CSS. Okay. So as mentioned before, all of the text content, all of the navigation, all of the footer information, all of those areas of your website are more or less going to be programmed in HTML and CSS. Even though you included them in your Photoshop document, like for instance, I have my name here, my navigation here, and my footer here, and then on my inside I have my name and my information here and my navigation there. I'm not going to make slices of those areas because I'm going to actually set those up as CSS and HTML. So all I'm really concerned about at this point in Photoshop are my images and my image data. Okay, so I have a couple of different sections of the website that I kind of finished out for this demonstration. Over here in this one, I have what you see here, which is like a introduction to my portfolio section of my website. I'm calling that content. If I turn off content, I have a gallery that I kind of just populated with 4 images here just for purposes of this demonstration. So I have some images here to work with. So I have the gallery. I turn that off. I also have populated the full size area of my website. So if in the event I'm in the gallery here, let's turn this off, and I click on one of these images, it'll take me to another page which will give me a full size image, which will look like this. Okay. So basically, when you went through the tutorial on how to create a gallery inside lynda.com, they provided you with the code, the JavaScript to make the gallery, and they also provided you with the thumbnail files, which are these. So let me turn this off. So they basically provided you with these little thumbnails here, as well as they also provided you with the full-size image. What I'm showing you here is making my own custom thumbnails and my own full-size image, because I don't really want to use their images. I want to use my content. So, and you're probably going to want to use your content. So I'm just giving you an overview on how to go about doing that. Okay. All right. So let's get started over here. I'm going to start working with the header file. And actually, before I jump in and start doing that, I want to show you one last thing. Since I've kind of explained the sections I'll be working with here today, I also want to review just real quick what I have here in the Finder in terms of file organization. So when you're finished slicing up your document, you will end up with what I have here. And basically what I have here is this folder, which is my name, Lisa's website. And in your case, it'll be your famous person's name for right here. So that will be considered the root level of your website. Okay, right here's your root level. And then inside that root level folder, you'll have one folder, and it will be called images. And I recommend you name that images all lowercase. Okay, so that will be called images. And then inside the images folder, you'll have all of your JPEGs, your PNGs, your GIF files listed here loose. Okay. Outside of there, I also have one index HTML file that I'm going to use real quick in this demonstration just to show you a couple of different things. So I just only have one HTML document in here so far at the root level. All right, and it's called index, which eventually is going to become the home page of my website. But right now I'm just going to use it for purposes of this demo. Okay, so ultimately when you finish up with this week's work, you should end up with a folder with the name of your famous person. Inside that folder, there should be one folder with the name images, and inside that images folder will be all your slices that you create here in Photoshop. Okay, so hopefully that's understood, and that's real critical that you get yourself organized in the proper way before we launch our work into Dreamweaver HTML and CSS. Okay? All right, so I'm going to jump back here into Photoshop, and we'll start working right here on this first page. So let me bring my layers over here, and on this first page I have, I believe, my header here. And I've changed some things since the last time. I've decided I want to put my logo down here, and I wanted to put like a drop shadow behind it because I wanted to create a situation where we may need a transparent PNG. So I decided to change the design to kind of give you an example of a situation like that. So I've got this logo here sitting on a white background, and I've got a drop shadow. Okay. All right, so basically I want to go ahead and slice this up. So already I mentioned I won't be slicing this content, or this content. The only content on this page that I'll be slicing will be this header information right here and this logo right here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go into the header information here. And there is a quick route to making slices that I've found is really simple and works for me and works for this particular example. This method will not always work for all examples of websites, but it works for this one because most of all of what I'm trying to slice up is based on these perfect rectangles or squares. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is come in and select the actual area that I'm using as a mask. Now I went through how to make masks, I believe it was last week, with your boxes that you drew up in your wireframe. So using that, continuing to use those wireframe boxes that you created, I'm going to just use that wireframe box to create a slice instead of actually drawing the slice manually. Okay, so I'm going to select that box and go up to layer, and there's an option here called new layer based slice. Now if I let go of this, notice that what has happened here is it's gone ahead and made a slice of that entire layer. Okay, so if I turn off that layer, you can kind of see the slice region out here has been defined. You see that there. And then by this number here, this is the slice region. And it also changes you to the slice tool, as you can kind of see here. I find this a lot easier to use than to actually draw in the slice, because a lot of times, unless you're actually perfectly accurate and zoomed up on each corner, your slice is going to be kind of inconsistent in size. You may end up with some issues. So I have found that this is the easiest way to make your slices, is to actually select the wireframe box. That is if you're working with the wireframe boxes, okay? In my particular case, I'm working with the wireframe boxes. If you're not, then this method will not work, and you'll have to follow either the method that I used in, or that I suggested in the handouts, or some of the methods that were illustrated in the tutorials in Lynda. Okay? All right, but this is working for me. So the next thing I do after I define that slice region is double click the, well, first I have to get my selection tool here, double click this little blue region here, and it's going to give me the slice options dialog, and I'm going to name that header, or call it home header, just in case I want to change a header in the future for another page. Okay, notice in here in the slice options, it also tells you the width and height of that image, which, or I'm sorry, over here, width and height of that image, which could be useful once you start programming in Dreamweaver. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and I've got that region defined. Okay, the other thing is I'm going to go ahead and manually, okay, because I can't really use the layer-based slicing for the next example. I actually have to select the image, or I'm sorry, the layer. Or I don't even have to select the layer. I can just go over and grab the slice tool, and I'm actually going to slice out this logo down here, but I'm going to do it manually. So I'm going to zoom up just slightly so that I can see the region that I'm working with here. Grabbing my slice tool here, and I'm going to just drag out, and I'm going to slice this. Now what I'm going to look at closely here is the distance of this drop shadow and where it kind of ends. And if you kind of see here, you can sort of see it it kind of has a gradient that kind of drops off to nothing here. And you can sort of see that on this side as well as down here. You want to make sure that your slice encompasses that entire area so that you don't actually cut off your drop shadow. So I had to move that out just slightly so that it gives me a little bit of extra space between where that drop shadow ends and where my slice ends. Okay. So I've got a slice here, and I've got it defined close enough to give me enough room around this drop shadow. Okay, I'm going to double click this slice, and I'm going to call this G slice, because that's a letter G, that's my logo there, and I'm just going to call it G slice. Notice again, your width and height is here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click, back down to size here, and you can kind of see. So I've got two slices. I've got this one here. Grab the slice selection tool, which is called home header, and I've got this slice here, which is called G slice. Okay. All right. So those are the only two slices that I really need. So I don't really need to do much more than that. So I did one based on a layer-based slice and one just manually drawing out the slice. Okay. All right, so the next thing you do is come up here to Save for Web. All right, so in the Save for Web feature, we're going to go ahead and we're going to assign a specific file format to our slices. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom down so you can sort of see the whole page here. All right. And I'm going to select the first slice here, which is this one. And notice that you can kind of tell that you're selected on these by them lighting up just slightly here. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So on this one here, I am going to assign a JPEG for that. And if you want to check and make sure that you could put yourself into 2UP. That way you could see what the original looks like and what the JPEG will look like. So down here it's telling me when I convert it to a JPEG, this is what my image will look like. It looks pretty close. Generally, when I select the JPEG option, I leave it at about quality of 60. I pretty much go with the default here on this one. I'm going to continue with that idea here. So I'm going to assign that. And now over here on this slice, okay, I'm going to go ahead and select this slice, and you can kind of see it's highlighted here. And I'm going to pull down over here. Whoops, I'm going to come down, select this one. Okay, because this one up here is your original. See, this is your original. And then this window view down here is if you were to change it. And I'm going to change this to a PNG. Now, and I'm realizing that I forgot to do something here. So I'm going to have to cancel out of this. So let me just cancel out here. And one thing I forgot to mention here before we go into the Save for Web is that in order to get this PNG slice to work properly, we have to turn off the background. And the reason for that is because this slice right here, okay, because it has that drop shadow. Let me just explain this for a minute, okay? So because this slice here has a drop shadow back here, I want to be able to place that slice on any color background, whether it be white, gray, red, purple, or whatever, and I want that drop shadow to look like a drop shadow, and I don't want it to have like a white band around it, okay, which is what it would have if I saved it out as a JPEG or a GIF. So because I'm going to use the PNG format, it's going to literally give me a transparent background behind that drop shadow, and it'll seamlessly blend in with any color background. But in order to get that, I have to turn off the background I currently have. Okay? All right, so it kind of has that checkerboard square transparency. Now let's go back into Save for Web. And I believe we've already assigned the, okay, so we'll have to start over on this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move this into view. All right, and I'm going to size this down just slightly. All right, so we can kind of see this now. Now that we're working with a transparent background, I'm going to start over. I'm going to click this. And down here, I'm going to set this one to JPEG 60. Okay, so that's for my header. And then I'm going to click this one, this slice down here. And I'm going to set this one to PNG 24. Okay, so notice over here. Now you'll kind of see a white halo around it over here in the Save for Web. And that's okay, it's still going to work because you'll see in a minute. I'm going to show you an example in another movie, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and say save to this. And this is important. First of all, before we do that, before we hit the save, what you want to do in here is you want to make sure that you select both of these images. So down here, I'm going to put myself back to the original view here. I'm going to select that and hold down my shift key, and I'm also going to select this. So now I have these two slices selected. Okay, so I could save them out at the same time. And then I'm going to hit save. And over here in the formatting options, I'm going to make sure that I save images only. And under the custom here, I'm going to pull down to other, and I'm going to make sure that put images in folder images is turned off. Okay, now I can't stress how important it is that you come in here and you turn off the put images in folder images. Okay, because you're literally going to do this manually. Okay, don't let the computer do this for you because it'll get you messed up. All right, so turn this option off and say okay. And then under slices, you should say selected. Okay, now I'm not going to go ahead and actually save this, but I want to show you where I'm going to save this. So over here is my root directory. Okay, remember I showed you this earlier, my root folder. And inside that root folder is an images folder. Okay, and notice over here, I've already done this earlier before this demonstration. I have gslice PNG, and I also have my header in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, well, we can just go ahead and save for purposes of this demonstration. And if we go back here and look, now I have a, oops, I must have forgotten. Let me move this to the trash. Yeah, because I did that incorrectly. So let me go back into Save for Web. Okay, select this image under the original. Select this image, and it didn't change it to JPEG. That's weird. Okay, and then go back to here and select this image and make sure it's set to PNG. All right, and then that, and this. Okay, save, and selected. This is everything I just did. Make sure this is turned off. You only have to do this once. Images only, and then save. Okay, and then replace. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're right. Okay, so now when I click back here in my root folder, inside my images folder, I have the header graphic, which is called homeheader.jpg. And up here, I have my slice PNG. Okay, and I'm going to remove this one because I put that in there from before. Okay, and this must have been from before. Okay, so I've got my slice PNG and I've got my home header graphic from based on what I just did here. Okay. Now, if over here, if we get out of this area, in this page, I'm going to move to this page here. I'm going to turn on the content page here. I'm only going to just do the content page because I don't want this demo to be too long. But I'm going to go ahead and slice out these, and I'm going to also use the layer-based slicing for this. Okay, so we're now working on the inside page. I'm going to go ahead and select that wireframe box that we had from before and come up to layer and do a new layer-based slice, and notice that it defines the slice right here. Go ahead and select here and layer-based slice. Now I've got a slice there, and let's come over here and do layer-based slice, and selects that one, and let's go to this one and go new layer-based slice. Okay, so now over here we have 4 slices. I'm going to go ahead and name them real quick. So let me get the slice tool. Okay, I'm going to call this port 1 over here, and call this one port 2. This one port 3. Notice these short file names to keep it simple, and port 4. Okay, so I've got each one of these named. Okay, so now I've got all of these named. I'm not going to slice out anything else, just the images. Okay, I'm going to go up into Save for Web here. All right, And since I already know what I'm going to assign to these, I'm not going to put myself in the 2-up or the 4-up mode because I kind of already know what I'm going to do. And all these images in here are pretty much pretty typical JPEG images. So I'm just going to go ahead and reduce down so I can kind of see my whole page here. And I'm going to select this first one and change it to JPEG 60. Select this second one and change it to JPEG 60. And this one to JPEG 60. And this one to JPEG 60. So now all of these are JPEG 60s. As you can kind of see, I just checked myself. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select and hold down the Shift key and select all 4 of them. They're already named, so we don't have to worry about naming them. We're going to hit Save. Now, since we've already been in here, we already set the custom setting for turning off Put Images in Folder Images. We're going to you don't have to keep coming in here. Once you turn this off, it's off for good. Okay? And everything else is pretty much set from the last one. So I've got images only and selected slices. Okay? And notice again, I'm right back where I was. I'm right here at the root level of my site and in my images folder. And I have already done this. So I'm not going to do it again. But I've already gone ahead and saved out all of those images, port 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you would just hit save and it would save those images right in here. Okay? And already you can kind of see I've also gone ahead and I have saved out my 4 thumbnail images, and I went ahead and saved out 1 large image over here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, and pretty much that was just slicing up my home and my inside page. And I also mentioned that I have some other areas that I showed you earlier. I've got a gallery that I sliced up earlier. I sliced this up, and I also sliced up this here. I had one slice here for this large image, and that's what you'll see back here. If you look, this here is the large image. That's the large image there, and then these are the individual images that we just went through right here. And then these are the thumbnail images for your gallery. So you do have to create the individual thumbnails for your gallery, as well as you have to create the large image for your gallery. Okay? All right, so that concludes the first video on how to create slices and how to export those slices out of Save for Web, how to optimize your images by converting them to JPEG, GIFs, or PNGs, and then file organization associated with doing that. Okay. See you in the next video.